It's podcadzo.
The jury's out. You can't stick me with anything. I'm innocent. How are you?
I'm good, dude. I'm real good.
Nice.
I had a lovely weekend. Enjoyed the nice weather
Yeah,
here
what'd you do
in
this weekend,
Colorado.
baby boy?
Dude, I've been just an update of my life. I've been running. So I ran.
Yeah, you look nice. You look in shape.
Thank you. Feeling shape. I did
Trimmed.
a half marathon Saturday morning. Not an official one. I just got out by myself and ran 13 miles.
Oh, you didn't do the
Horse
Horseshoe
tooth- yeah,
Half
the
was on
Horseshoe Half.
Sunday, wasn't it?
Yeah, I forgot that was happening. That would have been good for me to do. But no, I just got out and ran by myself 13
Nice.
miles. So that was nice.
After the Horseshoe Half, a bunch of people were coming into my store to get food, and this dude came in like wearing a medal. I was like, "Oh shit, nice! Like you got a big ass medal around your neck. Like you did something good, I guess." I don't really know how marathons work, but he had a medal.
Yeah.
And then
They're
he was like,
winners
"Yeah,
in
man, I
marathon.
didn't train at all, bro. Like I was wasted last night, and I'm getting wasted today." And I was like,
Damn.
"Sheesh."
Really? And he finished like high up? It was a real medal?
He had a medal. Yeah, it was definitely a real medal. It was large.
That's impressive.
I didn't notice it at first, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Like, bam, got
There's-
a fat medal on your chest.
There's fun stories about like these ultra runner types just being real partiers and like fucking staying up all night partying, doing like a 50-mile race the next day, being fine. It's a pretty cool lifestyle.
Or Wade Boggs.
Yeah.
Different sport,
Living
but
a Wade
still
Boggs.
impressive.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt. I admire athletes like that. But yeah, otherwise I am good.
Running.
Chilling in the
Chilling.
sunshine. Did some mountain biking as well. Still on my sober kick.
I mean,
Sober
yeah, April's not
April.
over.
It's only halfway through.
Yeah, how
I've
you
been
feeling?
Loving it. It's been easy as hell to not drink beer.
I love just the month of April.
April's a great
It's a
month.
great month.
Yeah, I always look forward to April. And whenever it's kind of surreal when April hits because you're like, oh my God, April's here. And it always goes by fast. And then after April's over, it's off to the races. Summer's here when April's
Summer,
over.
dude, and
Yeah.
it's like 90 fucking plus degrees every day, and it's dry,
Yeah.
shitty.
But what's up with you, brother? How was your weekend?
Dude, I mean, my weekend was fine. I was just working all weekend, and we were pretty busy. Felt good to have business and kind of just like do our thing, kick some ass. Felt like busy season's around the corner. The weather was really cool. Like, I mean, figuratively, it was cool. Literally, it was warm. So that was nice. It was like, fake spring, because obviously now we're about to have perpetual
false
wind
spring.
and rain for the next 4 days.
Which is also why April's crazy. And it does make you appreciate those nice days because you're like, this is truly like clock's running on this. And in a couple days, it's going to be snowing.
I was like talking to a buddy about this earlier today, but I feel like the seasons now are all just delayed by a few months because winter doesn't really seem to start now until like February.
True.
And summer starts, like last year, summer didn't even start until like August, really, because it was rainy like
Yeah, we did really rainy.
May and June.
Yeah.
And then July was kind of just like in the 70s and 80s. It didn't get bussin' until like August, September. And then it was like 60 degrees in December. So it was just like, well, just kind of shift all the seasons where they used to be over a few months.
Yeah.
That's what we're dealing with right now. Plus extreme wind, plus like snow squalls, random rainstorms in the middle of the winter where the rain freezes on the road. I mean, just all sorts of weird weather patterns that we haven't that I've never seen since I've been living here.
I think this is just the future for our world and for America is just like the calendar is going to be flipped on its head at one point.
Yep.
That's my theory, knowing nothing about weather.
Well, and climate scientists say that extreme wind will be something that we deal with.
Which that's the worst possible thing that we could be. I hate the wind so much.
They say that, well, not they. I read an article, I can't remember who it was just like an independent research article that said that like extreme winds will drive us underground before extreme
dude.
heat does.
Oh my God. Let's get off the depressing
Less than
stuff.
100 years, baby. So hopefully we're dead.
Yeah.
Just don't procreate, don't put someone through that. And then
That is putting them through a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're not going to solve it.
Let's not even try to tackle these issues
Okay.
today, 'cause we have something far more pressing to talk about.
That's
something
how
that
my
I'm
weekend was.
No, in all seriousness, I am very, very excited to talk about what we're talking about today.
I am whelmed.
Not overly.
Not overly or underly.
Whelmed is exactly where I want you. That's the perfect
Right in the pocket.
learning zone in the pocket. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm about to be educated.
I've been wanting to talk about both of the subjects we're going to talk about today for a while.
We were
and
just
it's
talking about
good timing to do it. And we're talking, and the topics are global warming and the
human
impending world
destruction.
war.
Yes.
Yeah. No, the topics, my dear Julian, are the band, the Libertines, and more broadly, indie sleaze as a fashion/music movement.
Okay.
So I debated whether I wanted to break these down into separate episodes.
Hold on,
or
I had a
tackle
joke
one
for
of
this.
those. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I Googled indie sleaze and a picture of your closet came up.
That's high praise, brother. Thank you. That's exactly what I'm going for. You can see I'm more on the preppy end of the indie
Yeah,
sleaze
you
movement.
look like Ezra Koenig
which-
15 years
yeah,
ago.
that's exactly what I was going for. Thank you. So yeah, I was debating whether I wanted to break these out into two different sods or tackle both in one sode, and it seems natural to do them in one sode because I can't really fill an entire episode with the Libertines. I'm not that big of a fan of the Libertines. Go ahead.
This is going to be our shortest episode yet.
No, I think it's going to be on the long side. I think we could
Really?
go as long as we want.
Oh, damn. Okay.
And we're going to be limited by when Benson gets here, as per usual. Shit, I lost my... One second. How do I get back to this?
Dude, Benson is such a freaking little weasel.
Clip that.
Fine. Whatever you want.
Send that to him every day.
Yeah, all right. That's pretty much all I had.
I was saying a sip of kombucha. For the listeners, that pause wasn't as awkward as it probably seemed. I was
going to keep
I was
going on
drinking
Benson's ass, but then I was like, well, he's already putting the lid back on. So.
All right. So why this is good timing is because the Libertines happened to release a new record. It came out, I think, the same day that Only God Was Above Us came out.
Yep.
So it probably flew under the radar for a lot of people.
And Ohio Players.
Oh, yeah.
the
Was that
same day
released the same
also.
day? We
Yep.
do have to talk about Ohio Players.
Later.
Let's table that for right now. But yeah, this Libertines album is amazing. I'm stoked on it. Have you listened to it? I told you to try to check it out if you had time. No worries if you didn't.
Okay, I didn't.
Okay, no, all good.
No, I'm kidding. I did. I didn't finish it. I got like 75% of the way through it. I can't decide if I should say it now or if I should say it later. I guess the one thing I'll say now, you said it reminded you of the Magic Whip, kind of.
Uh-huh.
It did not remind
Did
me
not
of the
remind
Magic
you. Okay, no worries.
It was enjoyable.
Mhm.
It was definitely entertaining.
I think that, like, when I first listened to it, the Magic Whip thing wasn't jumping out at me, but
Maybe
I
need
gave
to
it a
listen to
couple
more.
listens through, and it's not like that's too apparent. I was just trying to think of like something that I know you do like and something that was like vaguely close to it, and just some of the themes on the album, and like the songwriting style and a little bit of the production style reminded me of some Magic Whip stuff. But it's not really, it's like I said, it's not the first thing I thought of when I...
It reminded me of The Clash and The Beatles.
Okay, that's awesome. We'll come back to the Clash thing in a second. Have you ever listened to the Libertines before this? Are you familiar with their
No,
early
sir.
catalog? Okay.
I've definitely heard the name The Libertines, probably from my dad.
Yeah.
Listening to the album yesterday, it definitely seemed like a band my dad would like.
Oh, cool.
That's not as a dig. I mean, like, my dad's
Yeah.
super into that
Is,
type of shit. So
So
the guys that are like overly British, where he's just like,
it's very
"In
British.
it." Yeah.
And they tuned back the Britishness
Really?
100% on.
Oh fuck.
All Quiet on the Eastern Esplanade. So
Maybe
that's
I should
dude.
listen to some
The
early
first
stuff.
two Libertines albums are wild. It's literally like drunken English swarthy sailor music.
That sounds really
It's
cool.
it's really dope. I'm a big fan of the Libertines, as I've mentioned. I have been for a while. I'll go into a brief background on the Libertines if it pleases the audience, and I think it will.
It has to.
It must, or else our podcast is screwed, dude.
We're gonna have to shut down the shop.
Shut down production. So, the Libertines were formed in the year of our Lord 1997 by Carl Barat and Pete Doherty. Have you heard of Pete Doherty before?
Yes.
Yeah, he's a pretty controversial figure. Made the news a lot back in the day. Known primarily for being very drunk and destructive. And Carl Barat, to a lesser degree, definitely was a partier, definitely did some drugs, got into some shenanigans. But Pete Doherty really went off the rails with it, as I'll talk about in a second. They released their debut LP in 2002, so 5 years after forming, and that was called Up the Bracket. It was pretty well critically received and definitely received well by general audiences. It was 2002, so a year after the Strokes debut came out. And so it kind of earned the Libertines the moniker of the British Strokes or the UK Strokes. I think that's more because just the time period they came out and the timeline that they were kind of harkening back to like garage rock and early rock and roll a little bit, and kind of had like the image of an old school rock and roll band. I've never thought the Libertines sounded too much like the Strokes. They're not a million miles away by any means, but yeah, anyways. So Up the Bracket and their next album, which is self-titled The Libertines, were both produced by Mick Jones of The Clash.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I think he just kind of heard of the Libertines, heard them around, saw that they were getting some buzz, knew that they were kind of referencing some like punk stuff, and I think I'm sure they were big Clash fans. And so I'm not sure if they recruited him or if he approached them, but yeah.
Is that punk sound on the earlier stuff then too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's a little punkier.
It's not even post-punk, it's just punk, like first wave punk vibes.
Yeah. You mean the new album? Or
yeah, like not all of it, but like the first song on it reminded me of like, oh wow, this is like London Calling-esque.
Yeah. I can hear that for sure. Yeah, the earlier stuff is definitely just straight up referencing punk as well. I'm gonna call it post-punk. Yeah, very much like the Strokes in that way too, like where it's just like sincere rip-off of like garage rock and punk rock stuff.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't say like rip-off in a bad way. Like
no, yeah,
yeah, it's
definitely.
more just
I
like,
don't mean that derogatorily.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's more just like a heavy influence type thing where it's like, oh shit, like they're not even mixing punk with anything else. It's just like this is a punk song.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So after the release of Up the Bracket, Doherty became more of a public figure. His drug problem ramped up. He had big problems with crack and heroin. Tensions were rising with him and the band, especially between him and Carl Barat, the other founder. They were really, on the outs by the time 2004 came around and they released their second album, The Libertines. I think Pete Doherty even didn't record a lot of that album, even though he helped write most of the songs because his drug problem was just too bad.
Shit.
So they released The Libertines and then broke up pretty soon after that. But The Libertines was also critically well received. I think I'm a bigger fan of Up the Bracket, but I like both albums a lot. I should have noted, I always mix up the singles off of each album, but I think probably the biggest Libertines song is Don't Look Back into the Sun. Don't look back into the sun. That's how it goes. You might have heard it. Check it out later. We'll listen to it later. So yeah, they broke up 2004. were disbanded for 6 years and then reformed in 2010. Pete Doherty, in that whole interim, I think his drug problem only got worse. It got pretty bad. I think a lot of people just thought he was going to die.
They just wrote him off.
But he managed to get clean. A little bit before 2010, like members of the Libertines were kind of doing like one-off performances with each other. It wasn't
like
a real
heroin?
reformation. Yeah, Pete Doherty was heroin, crack, alcohol.
Oh, just
Yeah.
anything.
Libertines were, I forget what the area of London. They talk about. Have you seen the Amy documentary, Amy Winehouse?
I haven't seen it, but
you should check that out. It's really, really good. Doherty and Carl Barat make some appearances in that documentary because they were around that scene that Amy Winehouse was in. They kind of both exploded out of the same scene. And I think Doherty and Amy Winehouse got into some shenanigans together as well. But so reformed in 2010, started doing shows. They released a really cool documentary in 2011, which I think is how I was kind of a fan of the Libertines before that, but I watched this documentary called There Are No Innocent Bystanders. And
that's a good name.
Yeah, it talked about their history and just followed them on the reformation and the tour that followed. And it's really cool. So they released their first album after reforming in 2015. That's called Anthems for Doomed Youth. My bad. I am not a huge fan of this record. I should have listened to it again more recently. I haven't heard it in a while, but I think it's kind of just an album. So this new album, All Quiet on the Eastern Esplanade, is only their second album since reforming 14 years ago. And I didn't expect it. I didn't expect any new music from the Libertines, so I was stoked to see when it came out. Well,
was it like a surprise drop?
No, they'd been releasing singles for a while, so I knew it was coming when I heard the first single a while ago, which I think was the Run 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 song.
Okay, I think I remember which one that is.
That's the one where it's like him describing him holding the knife, the handle of the knife, and he's got tattoos on his fingers, and it's kind of like the more quiet ballad in the middle of the song.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so I think that's all the background I had on the Libertines. Don't really have too much more to say about them. Just that I think they're a cool band, and everyone should check them out. You should check them out.
I will check them out.
Let me know what you think of those first two
listen
albums.
to their earlier stuff and then go back and listen to the new one again.
Yeah, I'm a big... Here, I'll just pull up...
So when did the first one come out then?
2002.
Okay, so they don't really have an extensive...
No, just four
discography.
Just
really,
4 records.
Background.
Yeah, 4 records.
A little over 20 years.
I did want to talk more about the UK Strokes thing because I always found that funny. And there's this book called Meet Me in the Bathroom that I think I've talked about on the show before. I need to give it to you. It's really good. It's just like a sprawling record of all of the indie rock stuff that happened mostly around New York in the late 90s, 2000s, but it covers all the indie rock scenes. And it's just like she interviews all the musicians who were part of it, so it's all mostly in the words of the musicians there. But I think it's Nick Valenci who talks about they went to the UK and played some shows and had the Libertines open for them, and they were aware of like the UK Strokes moniker. And I think it was Nick Valenci who said that he really hated the Libertines and that Pete Doherty like really creeped him out and was touching him inappropriately the whole night. So I'm pulling up the Libertines. I want to tell you the big singles and what albums they're off of. Time for Heroes. That's a good one. That's up the bracket. Then there's Don't Look Back Into the Sun. What are the other up the bracket? Boys in the Band is a good song. And where's the Libertines? Can't Stand Me Now. That's the single I was missing. Thank you. Yeah, Can't Stand Me Now. So those are the big singles I would start with. But yeah, I think you'll like the first 2 albums. They're really like unique albums, and like I said, like a lot of them, it's just like it sounds like it was like drunken sailors in a bar just recording music, and like the mistakes are in there.
I like that.
There's background noise. They're cool albums. But the British Strokes thing I like because you can kind of define a lot of early influential indie rock bands by stroke comparisons. In other words, there's different strokes for different folks. But like Kings of Leon got the Southern Strokes moniker.
Oh, what? Okay.
Which I always thought was weird as well. But like Kings of Leon's, their first albums were very raw indie rock type stuff. Like
Just not as like well, maybe they are as simplistic. I always thought there was more of like an edge to them than that.
there's like that Molly's Chambers song. It's very like it's definitely more. You can tell it's coming from a southern rock band, but there's some rawness and yeah, it's not a perfect comparison, but also just because it was around the same time, it was dudes who looked like old school 70s rock stars with greasy hair.
Kings of Leon looked like shit.
Yeah,
dude.
they looked horrible.
They looked like they just got out of a truck stop.
And there's a new Kings of Leon album coming out in early May, I think.
Oh, shit.
Which I'm kind of looking forward to. They released a couple singles off of it already. Hives are the Scandinavian Strokes.
I could see that.
Franz Ferdinand, Scottish Strokes.
Sure.
Killers, Vegas Strokes, which I thought was undeserving. Phoenix, French Strokes.
That's also undeserving. Phoenix is way more.
Yeah. By the time like Wolfgang Amadeus came around, yes, but also the earlier Phoenix stuff. And I think they were big. Well, no,
I feel like it's always been more synth driven.
Yeah, true. Thomas Mars, the singer from Phoenix, was on Time Crisis. And I think they talked about that. And he said he didn't like the Strokes. He said he saw them and he said, I thought this was funny. The line I remember from the interview was he didn't like the equipment they were using. And that's why he wrote them off. I saw this on some internet message board thing. Someone called Interpol the depressed cocaine Strokes.
Definitely not on cocaine.
Yeah.
All their songs are like walking tempo.
True.
Fastest.
But they were on cocaine a lot.
Yeah, sure. They were on cocaine, but
but the music does not give you that impression. Very true. All right. Why the Libertines connect so well to indie sleaze is because GQ magazine touted Pete Doherty as quote unquote the original indie sleaze pinup.
Okay.
Pete Doherty, if you Google him, he's the perfect encapsulation of all things that were indie sleaze. And Pete Doherty, I will say, to this very day, does have a great style. He doesn't look too great nowadays. It's definitely
that photographer did him fucking dirty, bro.
Look at that. That's like him playing golf there or whatever he's doing.
Brother, that's drugs for you. That's unfortunate.
It's definitely it seems he's doing well though. I'm glad he's recovered.
Yeah, see, when I think of indie sleaze, I think of a guy that looks like this kind of.
Exactly.
But isn't that so? Okay. Oh, this is 2012. Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
I was gonna say because the indie sleeve fashion movement was like 2010, 2011.
So, I mean, it really started back as early as like you could say the Strokes kind of kicked it off, maybe.
But was it called indie sleaze?
No. So in my research today, I said indie sleaze was a fashion style popular in the United States and United Kingdom from approximately 2006 to 2012. So I think 2006 is when the phenomenon first occurred of like people being like, indie sleaze is a thing. Here's what it is. People are dressing like this. But the biggest indie sleaze influences were around, and relevant 2001, 2002. So I think up until 2006, it was all happening.
Okay.
And then 2006 is when it really became a movement. What I did not hear the term indie sleaze until a couple years ago when it kind of made its resurgence. But as soon as I heard it, I was stoked because it was like someone put a title to something that I intrinsically knew was true and was an actual thing. And I'd been looking for the words to describe it. And indie sleaze, I think, is a great descriptor for what it is. Yeah. Because it is the sleazy side of indie.
Sure.
So.
Well, and also sorry, but it's just like indie. I feel like it's kind of that similar thing we've seen with some other things that have resurged popularity-wise, where it's like it starts out almost ironic, like people are ironically into it, and then it just transitions into actually genuinely liking it.
Yes.
So the term indie sleaze in like 2017, 2018 was like an ironic internet term of like, oh, you're that dude that wears flannels, like you're that dude that stares at your feet all the time, like you're indie sleaze, and like using that term ironically, and then it turned into like genuine enjoyment of that like subculture.
Yeah. So
just like what's going on with Creed. People are roasting Creed and ironically posting about Creed and all this shit and using it in memes and stuff, and now people just actually like Creed again.
Okay, so wait, maybe I misread this earlier, because what I'm seeing now is it was not officially titled until early 2020s. So I don't think anyone was using the term indie sleaze in the early 2000s.
Not in like, oh yeah, sure, not in the early 2000s.
Or not even in mid 2000s. Not until it made a resurgence in 2020s. That's when I first heard about it.
I could be wrong about this, but I feel like it was one of those terms used by certain corners of the internet before it was accepted.
Yeah, I'm sure
on
it was
a large scale.
Totally, that would make sense. Yeah, so it experienced a resurgence in the early 2020s when the style was first named and became popular on social media platforms such as Instagram and TikTok. So I was hip to it because, I think I had heard ramblings about it, and then I found an Instagram page that was just called Indie Sleaze. It's a great Instagram page for anyone looking for fun pictures to look at, because it's just old pictures of people rocking indie sleaze style. So we've been talking about indie sleaze. Julian, what is indie sleaze exactly? Could you describe what it is?
Okay, so it's a boy likes a girl, and then the boy asks the girl on a date, and then the girl says, no, you're a creep, I hate you. And then the boy goes home and plays acoustic guitar for 6.5 hours straight while wearing some off-brand flannel and probably has jeans with holes in the knees. Or Liam Gallagher in a tracksuit. Not entirely sure which one.
Okay, so that will be a debate we can have, because I don't think tracksuits count as indie sleaze, and Liam Gallagher certainly was not indie. I think he influenced indie sleaze. I think indie sleaze was a bunch of people trying to dress like Liam Gallagher.
Yeah,
on a budget.
That's my point. Like, you want to look like Liam Gallagher, but you have
not
$7.
Liam Gallagher. Yeah, exactly. So here's the way. I think you nailed it, and we can expand more on this definition for sure. But here's how Wikipedia defined indie sleaze. They said it's characterized by an affordable, messy, and lethargic take on vintage fashion styles, especially the 1970s. The style was particularly popular among the hipster subculture and indie rock bands.
See, because hipster subculture to me is like 2010.
Yes.
You know, that's when hipster shit was peaking.
Definitely. 2010 for sure. That's, yeah. But it had been reaching boiling temperature from late 90s.
No, yeah, totally. I just think that's I don't know, like when it was, I guess before it had transitioned fully into indie sleaze, kind of like you said earlier, it was something that people always knew existed, but it didn't have an official name, where it's like it's inspired by indie, but it's just like a rung kind of lower into the trenches. And to me, I feel like the first time that like unironically peaked was like 2010, 2011, and then there was like a swift turn into like, well, fuck, I don't even know what you call it, just like overly consumed garbage. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's in a way the last true fashion movement than like hypebeast shit.
Well, but even hypebeast shit, it's all just like, it's one, like it's a logo or some text and like one graphic on the back, and it's all just pressed on. It's all just press on stupid bullshit. Like nothing's actually made with any purpose anymore.
So something that I've seen happening since indie sleaze has become such a thing and more people are becoming hip to it is that it's kind of replacing the term indie, which I think we have to be very careful about. What is indie and what is indie sleaze?
Sure.
Because not everything that's indie is indie sleaze.
Sure. Vampire Weekend?
So a lot of people call Vampire Weekend indie sleaze. And I'm like, that
No.
is the antithesis of indie sleaze.
Yeah, they're the complete opposite.
That's prep.
Mm-hmm.
Indie prep.
Yeah, like clean.
Clean, yeah. And
straightforward.
when I said earlier I'm on the prep side of indie sleaze, I didn't actually mean that because there is no prep side of indie sleaze. There's a maybe a preppier take on indie sleaze, but it's still indie sleaze.
Yeah. Well, the preppier take would be if you like took that shirt and then like put dirt stains on it intentionally.
Didn't wash it.
Or like
and if my bangs were
ruined it.
in my face and I had ripped jeans on
and then it's just like a different thing at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we could define it better by saying who the poster children for indie sleaze were. And for me, this is partly my own take, partly kind of collecting some information off the internet, what other people thought. But I think the best exemplifiers of indie sleaze, both music and fashion, were Pete Doherty, as earlier mentioned, Alexa Chung, Kate Moss, and the artist MIA. I think indie sleaze is perfectly summarized and encapsulated in those people.
Because, well, okay, so the indie sleaze like page that you were talking about earlier, there's a lot of Kate Moss on that page, or there used to be. I don't know if there still is.
Who dated Pete Doherty.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Who else has Kate Moss dated?
Kate Moss has dated a lot of people. Johnny Depp.
Okay, that's who I was thinking of. She was the lady who like testified in the whole Amber Heard shit, right? Where she was like, Johnny never hit me. Johnny never struck me.
I didn't follow any of that shit. I don't know if Kate Moss is it.
We just both revealed our personalities instantly. You're like, I didn't watch that stupid bullshit.
I tried to. I just didn't know how to. I didn't know how to follow it.
The whole thing was on YouTube, brother.
Yeah. But yeah, it sounds like that was likely Kate Moss.
Yeah, I think it was.
She had a fling with Liam Gallagher as well.
Okay. Well, and her whole thing, like, to me, her whole take on indie sleaze is like she'll wear one nice piece of clothing and then everything else sucks.
Totally. Yeah. And the not one nice piece of clothing, she's had it on for 3 days because she's been partying nonstop the whole time. You know.
So it's like the lifestyle's folded into the look.
Exactly. This is my own take. I didn't see this confirmed on any of the indie sleaze research I did. I think Gossip Girl is a great indie sleaze TV show. Have you ever watched Gossip Girl?
No.
I'm a huge Gossip Girl fan.
Really?
I've seen it twice all the way through.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Who are you?
I've like whenever anyone would back in the day ask what's your guilty pleasure, I always say Gossip Girl. But brother, I don't feel guilty about liking Gossip Girl at all. It's a phenomenal TV show. I love the fashion on it. Great characters, great acting. One of the most iconic TV shows of our generation, no doubt about it.
I guess these are probably all just like the thumbnail photos.
They are, for me, it's like especially Serena, who is what's her name? Blake Lively's character. Serena very well exemplifies kind of the Kate Moss version of indie sleaze. Not all the time, but when she's in her Serena party girl phase, she is definitely on the indie sleaze tip, where it's a mixture of high-end fashion and kind of cheaper stuff.
Okay.
And she's been wearing it for days and she's been partying in it.
I guess you like sluts.
How dare you, dude? I'm censoring that.
Please do. Dude, it was a joke.
Don't you dare.
It was a joke.
Don't you dare insult my sweet angel Serena Vanderwoodson.
It was a joke.
No,
Kate Moss is
joking.
a very, very classy individual, and I know that, the lifestyle of partying folds into kind of that aspect of the look. But, I mean, that side of it is almost, I guess, maybe that's the part of indie sleaze that I have misidentified or don't understand, is like, they look kind of like shit, but they still look good, but that's because they've just been partying and doing shit nonstop for days. Mm-hmm. The side of indie sleaze that I always think of is like the like the Chad who's like in jeans with holes because he like doesn't care about having nice shit, you know, like
Interesting.
the actual like hipster people that are just like,
yeah,
man, like I have an acoustic guitar from 1904 and it has 2 strings and like that's all you need, brother. Like,
yeah. See, I think that's where we
Like
need to
the
be
National.
careful about. I don't know if the National is indie sleaze, and that's where we need to be
they
careful
100%
with
are, even
Okay.
if they haven't been identified as such.
I think that's where we need to be careful in the delineation between indie and indie sleaze. Because indie sleaze, although it looks messy, it's a very intentional look. They're trying hard to look bad.
You're describing the National.
That's true. No, you're right. I guess like
Or earlier National.
circa first album, National.
Yeah, the first album, Alligator, even Boxer, it's kind of like, we're like a lo-fi band. Like,
Yeah, but I don't know. By the time Boxer came around, it was more like dadcore.
yeah, maybe Dadcore is its own thing too.
Yeah, I think so. Because the early definition of like hipster was flannel shirt, mustache, drinks PBR, wears trucker hats.
Yeah,
And that's not indie sleaze, in my opinion.
sure.
That's a very basic, primitive take on hipsterism, indie
Sure.
in general. Indie sleaze is very much it's people who understand hipster to the nth degree and really honed in on a specific thing.
Yeah, it's more like the philosophy behind hipsterism of just like, well, hipsters are like counterculture, so they're like, if it's popular, it sucks. But it was also kind of like that thing of preferring like the shittier elements of stuff, or like not wanting everything to be like sparkly clean. And I guess that's like the crossover to indie sleaze for me. It's more of like that philosophy than it is about, like the actual shit that they were wearing. Cause hipsters didn't really necessarily look like indie sleaze at first.
Yeah.
Probably weren't umbrellaed in until, like 2020.
And there was also like the really 1800s part of hipsterism where you dress like a butcher from London in in the 1800s.
Steampunk was a thing.
Yeah, exactly, the steampunk influence of hipsterism. But yeah, indie sleaze, it's a very fine line. Your hair just got to be long, can't be too long, or it can be short but the right kind of short. It can be dirty but not too dirty, and the clothes that you wear have to be throwback, but not too throwback, and can't look too calculated.
Retro modern. It all has to be new, but look old.
Yeah, exactly. So that's Pete Doherty pulled it off so well, because a lot of the times he wear fedoras and vests, but it somehow looked like a brand new look, even though he was dressing like, a gentleman back in the 1930s. In the UK. Yeah, look up young Pete Doherty.
I mean, I just want to look at this picture one more time.
Yeah. Off to pay.
Oh, man. That's what I'm going to look like in 10 years.
You got a much better mustache, brother.
Oh, thank you, but no, that thing is bussin', especially in this photo.
Yeah.
Let me take a ride, brother. Young Pete Doherty. Oh, yeah.
So that first one, that's perfect indie sleaze right there.
That's pretty good indie sleaze.
Yeah. And then him in the denim jacket a couple of shots later.
Because, okay, and this is OG indie sleaze. Maybe I'm over categorizing it, but it's early indie sleaze, the shit could still be nice. Yeah. But you just had to look like you didn't try too hard to put it all together.
If you put that outfit on any other person, it would just come off as poser or maybe just straight up hipster, not indie sleaze. There's just something about Pete Doherty where he's indie sleaze.
Okay, so I get David Byrne vibes from this photo.
Interesting. Yeah.
Do you think David Byrne tied into the influence of it?
Potentially. I don't.
Because that was that was a while before all of this, but David Byrne's whole thing was always I want to make myself look ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, side note, just because I see a picture from it, that's a fun YouTube video to watch. It's young, teenage Pete Doherty outside of an Oasis album release, talking about Oasis. That's a fun one.
Okay.
To watch. So Pete Doherty's one end. I think the other person I mentioned is MIA. I think MIA is a great example because she exemplifies how far to the other side you can take indie sleaze, like with a more hip hop kind of influence. Like MIA looks great nowadays. She's always looked great. She's had such dope fashion. But
Yeah,
like
I
back
feel
in the
like-
day, she was like, it was like dirty hair and sweatshirts kind
Yeah,
of.
it
And
had
like,
to be a
and
thing that changed because like nowadays MIA just wears like really nice shit.
yeah,
all
like
the
look
time.
up MIA 2008. There,
Hey,
look at those first two ones. Oh, that's funny. Just a bunch of Mamma Mia. Was Mamma Mia 2008?
it looks like it.
Mamma Mia is definitely not indie sleaze.
We'll just put rapper here. Probably over redux the search now, and we're gonna get nothing. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
so
this is
like
perfect.
Sonic T-shirt,
This would maybe be the first thing I direct people to when I say
large
indie sleaze.
jackets and beanies.
Even more than Pete Doherty, yeah. The cheap sunglasses, but she wears them so well that they look fashionable. MIA was always rocking like kicks that you couldn't tell were if they were really expensive or dirt cheap, you know? I think that's an important part, like the sneaker influence on indie sleaze.
Sure.
The shoes were an important part of that. So, yeah, I think MIA and Pete Doherty show the two ends, the extremes of indie sleaze, and then everyone else can fit in between them.
Okay, so Alex Turner.
Yes.
Where does he fit into this? Is he
So-
indie sleaze?
First two Arctic Monkeys albums, very indie sleaze. Alex Turner with the long hair, wearing sweatshirts with the hood up on stage is as indie sleaze as it gets, as indie sleaze
Okay,
as
but
MIA.
what about Alex Turner with like the long hair, circa Tranquility Base, wearing like
No.
velvet suits from the 70s
No.
and aviators?
No, I think even after,
What about
Humbug is where they exited indie sleaze.
what about when he shaved his head and was still wearing the aviators and just like a t-shirt and a suit jacket for like the second half of Tranquility Base?
No,
Not indie sleaze?
not indie sleaze.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Because then when I think of the type of indie sleaze that pisses me off, I think of that. So what is that I don't like? Because like Alex Turner in a suede
That's
suit
just-
from the 70s or like a velvet suit
So-
and just like sunglasses and just acting like, yeah, I'm just like here because I have to be. Like I'm not here because I want to be. Like that shit makes me so mad. And I always group that in with like the indie sleaze from the 2010s where it's like, I mean, I don't know, like I guess I can't think of any great examples.
In my opinion, Alex Turner devolved from perfect indie sleaze, which is what he was in early Arctic Monkeys, to rockabilly. So he jumped back from a contemporary style back to rockabilly for AM, and then has evolved through the rock and roll ages pretty naturally, but on the higher end of the rock and roll styles, from rockabilly through kind of almost Beatles-esque mod style
Well,
into
okay,
70s
but then
style
when-
and tranquility base.
like I think of young Alex Turner and I think of like George Harrison, like shit
Yeah,
like
it was
that.
it was Beatles,
Like I picture him
but that was a throwback.
with the big hair and the suits because they were always wearing the same suits.
Miles Kane, indie sleaze.
Sure, yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Forgot about Miles Kane.
But Miles Kane is more OG.
Yeah,
Okay, let me try and think of another one. Well, okay, oh man, I'm confused. Interpol is billed as indie sleaze, but to me, they're not sleazy at all. They're
are
like,
they billed as indie sleaze?
I thought you just said they were. Like
no,
earlier.
no. I said they're. I just made the Strokes comparison as a joke. I don't think Interpol's
Oh yeah,
indie
they're
sleaze at all.
cocaine strokes.
Yeah, they're
Okay,
cocaine
cool.
strokes. Yeah,
Never mind then.
Interpol's
Yeah, I was
not
gonna
indie
say
sleaze.
they are like the opposite of indie sleaze to me. Also, like they're very clean and refined.
yeah.
Fuck. Okay, Arctic Monkeys. What about like Viva La Vida era Chris Martin? Was that all too like coordinated? To
Coordinated.
Be indie
It's
sleaze?
too much in the pop world.
Okay.
I think he was probably looking at like, oh,
pulling from indie sleaze.
That's cool. Can that make me cool and relevant? I'll dress like that.
Shit.
Block Party.
Okay. The Mars Volta?
Oh, yeah. I think Mars Volta is spot on for indie sleaze.
What about like
maybe not so much music wise, but fashion wise, yes.
Odelay era Beck?
Not too much of an old head.
But even like fashion wise?
Yeah.
Sure. I guess that's more just like 90s hip hop.
Yeah.
Moby in like 2001?
Ooh. Moby could be an influencer of indie sleaze. For sure. Let's look him up.
I mean, that he's wearing a sweatshirt and a Minor Threat t-shirt at the fucking Grammys.
I think that's pretty indie sleaze. I think that's a good call.
Okay. I'm on to something now. Okay, so now let's just look up, just for shits and giggles, Matt Bern. I'm definitely spelling this wrong, but Matt Berninger of the year, like 2007.
Brother, you're right. That first picture is indie sleaze.
Right?
As hell, yeah.
And then, okay, so this is like, isn't this box? This is probably a little bit before Boxer, but let's just look up.
And folks listening, please weigh in the comments. Who are we missing? Is the national indie sleaze?
Is the early national indie sleaze?
Is the early national indie sleaze?
I mean, look at these guys.
Yeah. I don't know. It's so on the... I just think they're...
I think it's maybe two things. Like Matt Berninger and then Brian Devendorf are like indie sleaze era or indie sleaze-esque. But then
and
like
the Desners
twins
are
yeah.
They're more hipster. They're like straight line hipster.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
They're like, we only like guitars that were built in the 60s, bro. We only
we'll
run
play
everything through
Thunderbirds.
heavy tape saturation.
Okay. So while we're on this is a good segue into an article I found. This is a Rough Trades record blog post called A Rough Guide to Indie Sleaze. So they talk a little bit about yes. Big one I forgot to mention for indie sleaze. Carano especially. But
okay, I'm sorry. Before I interrupt.
Yeah.
Or not before I interrupt. Before you keep going.
Yes.
I'm going to interrupt you. God, so much of this has been so bad.
No, it's all been great. It's been great.
What about like Tom York in like 2008?
Oh, fuck. Yes.
Like Radiohead as a whole.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Indie sleaze.
Definitely.
Because like
Tom York Eraser.
Indie
sleaze.
Even like, I mean, I think of the King of Limbs.
King of Limbs.
Tom York's wearing like a fucking bowler hat.
Yeah, I think I think that's indie sleaze.
Okay.
But again, that's where we like.
Because none of that's even remotely coordinated. You know, they're just wearing the clothes they wore that day.
Yeah, what they wanted to wear. So, anyways, Rough Trade posted this rough guide to indie sleaze, and this will be fun because I disagree with a lot of these takes, but we'll talk through them anyways. So the first album, and this is both fashion and music. They're saying these are the bands / artists that encapsulated the indie sleaze sound. Which we haven't even began talking about what the indie sleaze sound is, because that's really hard to put a pin in. Because
the indie sleaze sound is just indie.
It's just indie. And really, at the end of the day, what the indie sleaze sound is people who dress indie sleaze making music.
Sure.
And it can be anything. Because it's Block Party or MIA.
Yeah.
It's The Strokes or Arctic Monkeys or fucking Calvin Harris.
Yeah. I think the main difference is just a tone-driven one. Like, you think of like your preppy... Or not even your preppy indie, but just like your more organized indie, and they're always like very clean tone, very well organized, very produced. And then you think of indie sleaze, and it's like more distorted, less organized, less produced.
Yeah.
But musically, it's all pretty much exactly the same shit.
I would totally agree. So Block Party, Silent Alarm, first album they call out. And some of these albums I'm skipping just because I'm not familiar with them.
The more I think about Block Party, the more I don't really understand the indie sleaze because of the music specifically. Like,
oh, yeah, okay. But look, like
it's definitely more driven and experimental than I would say a lot of indie from that time.
Interesting.
Maybe just indie because it wasn't able to fit under any major term otherwise.
I think Block Party has a great indie sleaze sound.
Okay.
I'd have to disagree with you there.
Interesting.
The Strokes, Is This It? I think that's almost
the
too
one.
easy of a
It's like
one
the
to even point
quintessential
out.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, indie sleaze wasn't a thing yet.
Mm-hmm.
Strokes were being indie sleaze, and they would influence indie sleaze. Interpol, Turn on the Bright Lights.
Nope.
They call that. No, not indie sleaze.
If they think it's indie sleaze because it's raw, then my retort to that is like it's raw intentionally. If they wanted it to be clean and sparkly, it would have been. The difference between that and, I mean, probably like an early Libertines record would be that the Libertines records sounded probably like intentionally a little bit rough, but also like that was the production philosophy.
Yeah.
You know?
No, for sure. Here's a good call. Lightspeed Champion, Dev Hines.
I don't know that one.
Okay. Dev Hines, I think as a dude was indie sleaze for sure. People at home look up Dev Hines and I'll give you a great idea of indie
Okay,
sleaze.
so possibly stupid question. How much did like black hip hop culture in the 90s influence indie
I think
sleaze?
significantly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Because even now you hear like, even not to just constantly talk about Vampire Weekend, but like Ezra Koenig talks a lot about being influenced by 90s hip hop these days.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, even from the other side of the indie scene where they're like prep school gangsters, I don't know, like the through line of the appreciation of hip hop into indie seems consistently across the board.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great call. It's something we should have mentioned earlier is that there is and like MIA, like we were saying, significant hip hop influence. The more I'm going back on thinking about this, like I think we can't understate the importance of the Clash either in indie sleaze.
Because the Clash were...
They are the quintessential 70s punk rock fashion icons.
Yeah. They influenced fashion all the way through till today.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like the core, in my mind, the core principle with indie sleaze of like looking like you don't really give a shit is like, I mean, the Clash didn't even care about looking like shit. There was no coordination whatsoever until there was. Like, obviously later in their careers, they fucked around with uniforms and collaborated on outfits, but early Clash is just like, yeah, they were wearing what they had, and there was no thought put into like, well, should we look any different? Like,
yeah, and just also the philosophy of the Clash too, and like when the 80s came around, Joe Strummer, Mick Jones being hugely influenced by hip hop in New York in the 80s and incorporating fashion elements of that into their own style, and then we see the Clash being influential to indie sleaze artists like the Libertines, Mick Jones producing their record, MIA sampling Straight to Hell in Paper Planes. I think the Clash is, the importance of them can't be understated in
Totally.
indie sleaze. Back on the list, Arctic Monkeys, Whatever People Say I Am, That's What I'm Not.
okay,
I think that's I think that's a great indie sleaze sound too.
sure. That one I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dudes learning how to play their instruments with each other, but making something totally unique that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
The Libertines up the bracket. Again, what is that too early to be indie sleaze? I don't know. MIA, Arula, 2005. We talked about MIA already. I think that's a perfect call. Ooh, MGMT. That's a band I hadn't thought about in this. You don't think so? I think MGMT's pretty indie sleaze, especially the first album.
It's all coordinated.
Too coordinated?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think there was the effort put into looking like indie kids.
Yeah. Okay, well, they say Oracular Spectacular is... And they, like...
And sonically, too, because this is supposedly a list that covers both sides. They make the music and they look like it. Oracular Spectacular is not indie sleaze.
You don't think Time to
all.
Pretend is indie sleaze?
No.
Interesting.
That's where I would start to say we're looking at the beginning of like V3 pop, which was influenced by indie for sure, but it was still its own thing.
Uh-huh.
The goal was to be poppy and large sounding, not necessarily small and DIY sounding.
Have you ever had Smarties, Julian?
Yes.
I brought you some.
Thank you very much.
We can snack on them.
I've never seen them in this little box before.
Are you thinking, like, not Smarties, the one that comes in plastic sleeves in America? These are Canadian Smarties. Or UK Smarties.
Oh,
they're like
tiny.
M&Ms.
Oh, they're chocolate.
With chocolate.
They're M&Ms.
They're M&Ms,
I
but
just
better.
meant they look like M&Ms.
They're way better than
M&Ms
M&Ms.
without the red 40.
Shout out to my homie Casper in Denmark. Brought these for me. Shout
Shout out to the Swedish chef.
out to him as well. How does the Swedish...
Ergen,
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
That dude was indie sleaze. Wore the same outfit
True.
every day that anyone ever saw him. Hair always disheveled. Couldn't even see the fucker's eyes.
Mustache influenced a lot of
Probably listening to some
hipsters.
fucking American football in ears all times.
True. Probably listen to the Hives.
Okay, where does Midwest emo fit into this?
Not at all. Don't even fucking bring it up.
Does Midwest emo arguably influence it?
No.
Or is it influenced by it?
None of these bands that I mentioned, none of these people have heard of Midwest emo to this day.
Fair enough.
So good try. But no.
So they just happen to be two similar trends that existed at similar times, but they didn't influence each other at all?
Yeah, dude, it happens.
It does. Yeah.
It happens.
I mean, Midwest emo it's such a little wormhole of specificity that could have
We're
stayed in
gonna
its
have
own
to do
universe.
We're going to have to do a Midwest emo episode.
I mean, let's just do an American football episode and call it a day, because
true.
all other Midwest emo fucking sucks.
That's true. Anyways, closing remarks on Indie Sleaze. I wanted to talk about Alexa Chung a little bit more because we brought, I mentioned her, and then when we were talking about Alex Turner, I wanted to bring up Alexa Chung because they were the it couple of the mid-2000s. Alexa Chung is a beautiful supermodel and a sweet, sweet angel. And she...
I have never seen this person before.
Really?
In my life.
Never seen Alexa
I do
Chung?
not know who this is.
Wow. That's crazy. She's dated a lot. She's very famous in her own right. Extremely charming, well-spoken, very beautiful, obviously. But she was like the it girl of the indies, UK indie scene in the mid-2000s. She dated Alex Turner. They were a very public couple. She dated, what's that, Maddie? Not Maddie Healy. There's a different Maddie who was also in a band and was also a model. I'm forgetting his name. She's dated famous people since then. Why don't we do this? Someone's already done all the work for us in determining what is
My
in
box
this.
broke.
Oh, no. Yeah, they are very flimsy fucking boxes. It's because a bunch of lazy Europeans constructed them. Didn't use any adhesive. Oh, did you lose some Smarties?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Do you like them?
Yeah, they're
They're delicious, aren't they?
Yeah.
Canada has the best candy. I mean, Smarties are all over Europe. And most Canadian candy comes from Europe. But Canada is unmatched in the candy game, in my opinion. But yeah, someone's already done all the work for us in determining what is Indie Sleaze. Why don't you go to Instagram and go to the Indie Sleaze profile, and we're just going to list off some of the people that they determine are Indie Sleaze, and we're going to end it there.
Oh, you know what? Hold on. Let me switch over. All right. What do we got? Oh,
Oh,
this is
Florence and the Machine.
all Coachella shit.
A lot. They
probably.
post a lot of I think Coachella was kind of Coachella between 2006 and 2012 was the meeting of the Indie Sleaze heads. I think that's when everyone brought out, whoa, Aaron Paul
This
in
is
Breaking
great.
Bad.
Yeah, Aaron Paul in Breaking Bad is
Indie
Sleaze.
Sleaze. I think you're right.
100%.
Yeah.
It's interesting. There's a lot of Vampire Weekend posts, but I think this is more of just... I don't know. I think this is more of just
Yeah.
noticing that Vampire Weekend is indie.
Man, they
in
look
general.
great there.
Yeah, they look
Bayo,
fantastic.
Bayo's a real cutie back in. I mean, he's still a good looking guy, but man. Yeah, those are great coats they're wearing.
Yeah.
Everyone listening,
you can
please
tell
go to
that
the
Ezra
Indie
spent
Sleaze.
like 6 hours doing his hair before this photo shoot.
Yeah.
Or someone did it for him, whatever. But, I'm kind of just scrolling till you tell me to stop.
Yeah, I just want to. I mean,
wanna
it's a
find
lot of people
older
we've called out.
stuff.
Oh, go up. There's Ezra drinking out of a beer bong party. That's bordering indie sleaze.
But
'cause
he's still
being
wearing
sleazy.
a collared shirt.
Yeah.
And CT's
And
wearing a
vest
collared
of it.
shirt.
Yeah.
And Bayo's wearing a button-down shirt. I've been saying Bio for my entire life until, like, they started Vampire Campfire, and he was like, "Hey, my name's Bayo." And I was like, "God fucking damn it!"
Damn, dude. How embarrassing for you.
Yeah, so now I'm trying to get better and correct it myself.
Yeah.
But
There's MIA Classic. There's a couple MIAs there.
who the hell is this?
Mr. Billa. MR Billa. I don't know who that is. Umbrella.
Ah, here's some good old.
Yeah, being
indie sleaze.
sleazy as hell there.
I'm trying to find some Kate Moss. Maybe there hasn't been any Kate Moss for a bit.
There's Pete Doherty. I remember Kate Moss reigning supreme on this page. A lot of Kate Moss. Amy Winehouse. We mentioned Amy Winehouse, but I didn't specifically say Amy Winehouse was indie sleaze. I think Amy Winehouse was very much indie sleaze.
Well, okay, I was going to ask about her because we did talk about her briefly earlier, just hanging out with Pete Doherty and stuff. But, like, she'd be indie sleaze fashion-wise, but not musically, right?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
But
local natives.
I think just too straight up hipster. I think they're just run of the mill hipster.
Yeah, I guess those guys do look like hipsters there.
Yeah.
In my head, they're more indie sleaze, but
Yeah.
they definitely just look like they sleep in a van together, so I guess that's hipsters.
Okay. Julian, an important part that we've ignored with indie sleaze is that you actually have to be sleazy to be indie sleaze.
Like you
Let me
gotta
read
suck
this
dudes
definition.
off behind dumpsters.
Indie sleaze's embrace by the mainstream in the mid-2000s was an optimistic response to the Great Recession and led to a rise in amateur flash photography and hedonistic partying and drug use. So you can't just dress indie sleaze. You gotta live the lifestyle. You have to be sleazy. You have to party. You gotta do drugs. No posers allowed.
I feel like they're all posing though.
Probably.
They all dress like that and look like that and
yeah.
act like that because they want people to think that they're actually like that. And that's like the definition of what posing is.
Yeah, they're very...
Like you're an indie sleaze because you just actually want to look the way you do. But like Kate Moss, just to use her as an example, I'm not trying to shit on her, but like she was clearly using the trend of indie sleaze, even though it wasn't called that at the time. She was like using that to get publicity, but then as soon as that wasn't popular, she was like, now I'm just going to go back to looking like a glam bitch, like 100% of the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True.
Yeah.
True.
They're all posing.
I think that's a good
Maybe
note to
not-
end on. Everyone's fucking poser. Nothing means anything. Pete Doherty and Amy Winehouse were the only real ones because they were the ones who became
addicts.
close. Yeah, who became legit bona fide drug addicts. Died in the wool drug addicts. Died in the case of Amy Winehouse.
I think it all starts super genuine, and some of the genuine exists throughout, but then some of the people that get notoriety for bringing it forward are all people who are just using it for personal benefit at the time.
Dude, I just had how have I not mentioned this? This is a huge realization. Russell Brand.
Is he indie sleaze?
Russell Brand is indie sleaze.
I guess he's like...
Look him up. Russell Brand 2008.
Should we find the one where he whips his dick out at the park? Where did he whip his dick out?
Did that happen?
Yeah, this. Can you see that? This photo from
when he was
the early 2000s.
Yes, like before he was famous and he was like doing an actual
He was doing an actual
protest thing. Yeah, no, I remember this.
I That's pretty indie sleaze right there, if I do say so myself. The cops grabbing him by the fucking armpit, dude.
That is a glorious, glorious picture. Dude, I was a huge Russell Brand's head. The movie, I think I've talked about it on the show before, but the movie Get Him to the Greek changed my life and got me obsessed with Russell Brand.
Do you still like Russell Brand?
He's kind of a prickly character. I don't want to make a statement on that. No, I am disappointed with. I mean, that's a ridiculous thing to say. I can't be disappointed with the trajectory someone's life went on. It's not mine to control. But I
Are
wish.
you God by chance?
I wish Russell Brand followed a different path, and I don't really fuck with anything that he does anymore. I know he's like big on politics stuff, and I just kind of stopped listening to him a while ago.
His whole thing is just fake news, which I get it. Like,
a couple years ago, it was like he had a YouTube channel called The Trues, and that was when I was like really into Russell Brand. And I was watching a lot of that, and I thought that was a cool channel because he was just like kind of poking fun at the news in a very comedic way.
Yeah, I watched a lot of The Trues too, and it starts like that, but then it gets heavy into conspircy pretty quickly.
Definitely. And I know that's the tip he's on now. And then by the time, I don't really know whatever happened with him being canceled. I think of as a self-protection method. I just stopped following Russell Brand because I didn't want the memory of Russell Brand to be ruined for me. So I didn't really pay attention to his whole him being canceled thing or anything.
I think it's one of those things where it's like he's kind of uncancelable because like you can like not pay attention to him, but he's not going to go away.
If he did anything that truly bad, I think there would be a case against him and stuff. So yeah, I don't know the details, but anyways, I was just thinking that it's been a categorically bad several years for Get Him to the Greek fans. Russell Brand, Jonah Hill, and P. Diddy, the stars of Get Him to the Greek, have all been in very hot water within the last 2 years.
This could be the wrong
or
opinion.
Year even.
This could be the wrong opinion, but I personally feel like the Jonah Hill thing wasn't as bad as most people
it wasn't.
Because
it's just funny that if you look at the poster for that movie, it's like, all three of these dudes have been in the news heavily.
Recently.
Yeah. For sure.
Okay, so Arcade Fire.
Oh yeah, good call. Indie Sleaze.
And like Win Butler specifically.
Yeah,
and he
Win
also
Butler
just got recently canceled too.
And Win Butler, I think he's on the that's what he did. He's on the Pete Doherty tip of Indie Sleaze, I think, where it's kind of like elegant, old timey clothes.
Sure.
But that look cool.
Yeah.
And modern.
Sure.
See, dude, I said this could be we could go on this for hours talking about Indie Sleaze. It's pretty fun, isn't it?
I mean, I came into this thinking I didn't know anything, but I feel like I've just been misidentifying certain things that I like and don't like about what is Indie Sleaze for, years. Like, the things about it that I didn't like 10 years ago, I still don't like about it.
Mm-hmm.
But the things that influenced me continue to.
Yeah.
And I think there's just, because it's such an umbrella category, and indie in general, like we've talked about this in the past, indie is such a huge category. It means nothing.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, like the subcategory of indie sleaze helps you narrow it down to like, well, these bands purposely tied like the look and the fashion into the entire like universe of indie sleaze. And then I think other musicians did it like kind of accidentally or by proxy. And I think those are the musicians I like gravitate towards more. Like Tom York wasn't intentionally being indie sleaze, I don't think. He was just like, I'm just going to wear whatever I want because I'm like too old to give a fuck about an outfit or whatever. Whereas like Arcade Fire, like Funeral Time, they're like, we're going to do everything we can to look like gutter kids. Like,
Mm-hmm.
And now indie sleaze, I think really is just, in a lot of ways, white people hip hop clothing. Like,
I think that's what you call.
In a weird way, I don't know. It just seems like it's all come full circle to now just hip hop is the main influencer of everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Even something we thought we had was us just ripping off black people again. We truly have not done anything other than try to look like cool black dudes.
Yeah, we just want to be cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess look like we don't give a shit, but the difference is the attitude of like early 90s hip hop was like we actually don't give a shit. Like the whole point is saying what we need to say, getting the message across in a way that will make people notice, like they have no choice but to pay attention. And indie is almost like the opposite of that, where it's like so ingenuine that it's just like we'll do anything to have you pay attention to us. Like we'll say whatever we need to say. And again, that's over generalizing it because there's a lot of indie that's not like that. But I think there's a lot of indie and indie sleaze that is like that. Okay, so what about like of Monsters and Men, or like any of that like poppy
indie folk?
Yeah,
indie folk's a whole different thing. Never the twain shall meet. That's when the movement started to die. When indie folk pop came around,
took over.
Mumford & Sons. Mumford & Sons is maybe the one I'd give it to the most of, like
in the
a
middle.
little bit bordering on indie sleaze, a little bit, but that's being very, very optimistic. Like Interpol is way more indie sleaze than Mumford & Sons.
Yeah,
obviously. And actually, speaking of, they have Paul Banks right here on the indie sleaze page. So I don't know. This is kind of the Bible of indie sleaze. If they're calling Paul Banks indie sleaze, and his hair gives off indie sleaze. The way Interpol dressed did not, maybe. Oh, and you know what?
Yeah.
Back to the...
we all had that haircut in 2008, though.
I couldn't. Mine was too curly. I wish I had that haircut. Someone on that commented, "My white boy angel." There's a very well-known phenomenon. Michael Cera. Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Indie sleaze.
Indie sleaze as hell.
What about just like Michael Cera in the year 2006 or 2007?
Yes.
What about Aubrey Plaza?
Yes.
Okay.
Aubrey Plaza in even fucking Parks and Rec.
Yeah, what about Rashida Jones?
No.
Yeah, I guess she was too preppy. Oh, fuck. Bert Kreischer. No. Go away.
Go away.
I don't know why I still
Maybe you shouldn't follow him. There's a well-known thing, though, where black people love Interpol. Do you know about this?
Yes.
Black people really fuck with Interpol.
Yes. And I think that... Ooh, yeah, that feels good. Yeah. I think a lot of black people fuck with the, like, more dark side of indie. Like, because, again, like, I don't know, you've got, like...
Oh,
I mean, I guess the thing that comes to mind the first is like Turnstile. Like right now, people are super into Turnstile, and they have like a huge, like African American following.
Yeah.
And I think like Willow Smith releasing like that emo album like 2 years ago. Like I think there's always been a huge appreciation.
You see it as like early as Nirvana. Like Nirvana had a big black following,
totally.
And I think because it's like, maybe like. The heavy side that
it's
isn't
the same core like feeling that you get from heavy music.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just a different expression of it in rock and roll. Like that you can't have the same distillation of that heavy feeling in hip hop as you can in rock and roll, and vice versa.
Totally.
So, all right, there's an insight we got into. Great sode. Everyone weigh in the comments, please. Who we missed, who you think indie sleaze, who you think is indie sleaze, or who you think isn't indie sleaze. We would appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, is Kadzo indie sleaze?
Kadzo's bordering indie sleaze.
Since there was a resurgence or whatever. I guess there wasn't a resurgence of indie sleaze itself. It was just of the era of indie sleaze.
Yeah.
Another crucial
It was just
difference.
it was just a nostalgia. It's a nostalgia thing.
Okay. The new Vampire Weekend, though is not indie sleaze, could be a resurgence of like the peak era of indie in general, right? I feel like there's a thing coming back. Like
I hope so.
People that were like indie kids that were in hibernation for the last like 6 years, they're all coming out now, and they're all like, you know,
we're so back, baby.
Yeah, we back.
We're back. They are so back.
I think I finally figured out why I didn't like Gen X Cops and why I like it now.
Oh, why?
So when it came out, it's basically just there wasn't enough context. Like when it came out as a single,
for the sound of the song or for the
exactly
lyrics?
Like the lyrics, I think I always thought lyrically it was gonna fit in.
Yeah,
because it was it's a very serious demeanor, I think, to that song. But like just the brashness of the sounds themselves, like when it came out as a single, I was just like, oh, they're trying to be loud and brash and overly simplistic and goofy. But then in the context of the album, like the song's not like that at all. Like besides when the riff happens like the first time and then when it comes back the second time, like the main point of the song isn't that riff. It's like there's a lot happening underneath it. Mm-hmm. And in the context of the album, it's like all the serious, all the not even serious, but just all the more like mature sounds on the album or on the song are like buried underneath the guitar, the lead guitar itself. So it's kind of just like, it doesn't strike me as a brash song anymore. But it did when it was in the context of just being a single. Because it was like, here's the quiet one and then here's the loud one.
For sure. Yeah, it was a sharp contrast between the two. Yeah. And the slide just sounds so crazy. It's one of those like, what the fuck instrument is that?
Yeah, what even is that?
Yeah. No, I feel you on that, for sure.
Thank you for following my saga of Gen X Cops by Vampire Weekend.
Let us know in the comments your own saga of Gen X Cops. Yeah. All right, Julian. Good sode?
Good sode. I learned a lot about nothing that matters, but hey, my brain's full, so.
And isn't that all that matters?
Yes.
To me, there's nothing. There's nothing.
I think there might be some more that matters.
There's nothing more important in the world to me than understanding and discussing the complexities and nuances of indie sleaze.
Well, then I'm glad you're happy.
This was a peak moment for me. Something I've been waiting to do since 2022.
Well, then I guess this is the last episode of Podcadzo. Thank you guys for joining us for this ride, and we'll be signing off forever.
We won't see you next week. Thanks for listening.
See you never.
Goodbye.